Hello, everyone. Welcome to the weekly show of Classroom Without Walls, episode 130. On this show, I interview leading entrepreneurs, business owners, content creators, social media marketers to come here and share with us their best strategies and practices so that we can future proof our business. And today we are talking about my all-time favorite social media platform, and that is LinkedIn. And we have a superstar join us, Andy Foot. And I have been following Andy on LinkedIn for quite some time. I'm a huge and super fan of Andy's content, especially as I'm getting ready to prepare for our interview. I was doing even more research about you. Oh my God, I'm learning so much from you, Andy, and thank you so much. And for those of you who don't know who is Andy, Andy is a LinkedIn superstar, a LinkedIn executive coach, and spent more than 10 years on this platform and has helped numerous business owners, content creators, freelancers, and to 10 times their businesses. So I feel truly honored for today's interview, and you are going to walk away from our conversation with a much deeper understanding of LinkedIn in 2020. And also, what are some updates with LinkedIn algorithm and content strategy, hashtag strategy, engagement pod, and so much more. So definitely make sure you stay until the end and take out a piece of paper and take notes. And thank you so much. And we are live on LinkedIn. Of course, we are also live on Facebook, on Periscope, on YouTube, and also I just added Twitch to my restream. So really, we are also live on Twitch, and really excited. And welcome to the show, Andy. I'm really excited.
Hello, Dr. I. Thank you very much for having me. I don't think I made you chase me too much, right? I think I said yes pretty much soon after you asked me.
Totally. You made my day. As soon as I asked you, you were like, yes. And I didn't know you are actually on vacation. I feel a little bit bad, but thank you so much. Yeah.
Yes, I will definitely be happy to carve out some time for you. I'm delighted to do it. Thank you, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh yeah, of course. We literally have people from California, from Australia, from different parts of the globe join us live. So let me know, my friends, in the comment section where you guys are joining us live from, social media wise and geographically speaking. So Andy, I want to start today's interview and really getting to know you a little bit more and your amazing story. So you started your LinkedIn journey in 2008. And at the time, you were a stay-at-home dad, spending quality time with your daughter, so sweet. Did you expect at the time that LinkedIn was going to make such a huge impact on your career?
So, yeah, I was a stay-at-home dad and I was twiddling my thumbs and I was thinking, well, what can I do at home? And, how can I educate myself? And I did have an inkling once I came across LinkedIn. I did have an inkling that it might be something that would suit me quite well because I was the kind of networker who would work the room. So whenever I attended any events for the organizations that I worked for, I would definitely, maximize my time, and I wouldn't be saying, hey, here's my business card, on to the next group, right? I would be having meaningful engagements, and then I would always ask for the card, or we would do the swap of the cards, and I would always come away with fistfuls of cards, and I have those cards somewhere, thousands of cards. So I felt that networking, period, is something that I'm always going to be interested in doing, always interested in. And when I realized that LinkedIn was essentially allowing me to access networkers, fellow networkers all over the globe, then that certainly got me interested. And I started with my LinkedIn education with groups. Groups in particular drew me in, and I was just smitten from the first. I thought, hold on a second, this platform, which is global, is allowing me to build virtual communities with, again, access to people all around the world on any subject that I want. So I started building communities, and I got quite competitive. Some of the communities which weren't building fast enough, in my opinion, I gave them to existing members. I said, in the group, I would say, okay, I'm going to actually let someone else run this group. They can be the owner, the so-called owner. And so there are lots of Andy Foote created groups out there that I have no idea how they're doing. I hope they're doing wonderfully.
Wow,
But,
they're like your disciples. I love it.
so maybe one day I'll go back and I'll have a look, see if I have any records to see if they're still going strong. So yeah, I started with groups, and that's where my education began with LinkedIn, and that's how I became gradually more knowledgeable about the platform. And it was something, of course, that I could work at, right? LinkedIn, I could work at in my own time and at my own pace. So that was attractive. I could do it in my PJs, put it that way.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Especially right now, I think with COVID, so many people are losing jobs. And I think that can, everyone realize, wow, I need to be on LinkedIn and work with some people. So absolutely. I don't know. Yeah. So I want to travel back to memory a little bit more. And so in 2013, let me share my screen. And you wrote a LinkedIn article, and you shared and highlighted 3 LinkedIn profiles. And this article, correct me if I'm wrong, gained 3 million views. Is that right, Andy?
So this article was back, certainly when I started this article became, well, all of my articles were indexed, but this one in particular reached the first page of Google for two important search terms. And I had no idea they were important at the time, because I had no idea about search engine optimization. I had no idea about SEO. And the 2 search terms were LinkedIn summaries and LinkedIn summary examples. So whenever anyone would do any of those 2 searches, they would get to the first page of Google, and I was not only on the first page, I was at the top of the first page for a long period of time. So that cumulatively has gotten me over 500,000 views, just that article alone, which is still mind-blowing to me. And it also was mentioned or linked by a writer with the Huffington Post. So that obviously contributed to that huge total. Mm-hmm. But so with that article, my early stuff as an encouragement to writers, novice writers, people who are just starting to write out there, my early stuff was crap. Mm. And I'm glad that it's sort of been hidden by the web, right? It's very hard to find that stuff. You could probably go to my blog and find, but it was terrible until I finally realized that the key to writing well for me is to just write how I speak. Mm. Because once I did that, and I didn't focus on the words, I focused on the message, my personality shone through, and I felt more comfortable about writing about stuff and my writing. And I also did something different with that article at the time. I wanted to highlight real examples, and I felt, because I was highlighting the good, the positive about real people and what they were doing on LinkedIn, there would be no issue in terms of, copyright or infringing on their content. And I was right. That proved correct. So I wanted, because whenever I read something or I see something, which is a screenshot, and I see some blurring, it's like, well, who is this person, right? Mm-hmm. And so I want to avoid the blur, and I did that with those 3 folks. I was connected with, I think, one of them at the time, and then the other 2 subsequently connected with me. And of course, they were delighted to be featured because this was great publicity for them. Okay. And I wanted to explain not just, or hold up. I wanted to hold up not just shining examples, and I want to explain why there were shining examples. I wanted to say why there were stunningly good summaries, and I think that's that's what attracted, I think, so many people to that article, is that, okay, Andy's not only giving us real life examples that we can see, but he's also breaking it down for us, and he's explaining what makes them good examples in his opinion. And so that was how my consulting business was born, because I put at the bottom of that, I put a call to action. So I said, so look, if you like this, if you think I'm making sense, if you like my advice, then please hire me, and I can do the same for you. I can help you with your summary, as it was called then. It's now called an about section. And I wish LinkedIn didn't change it from summary to about, because about is not that descriptive, right? A summary, people kind of understand what a summary is. So yeah, that was the article that put me on the map, that enabled me to do my thing that I'm doing now.
Wow, what a story. I'm curious, what happened to the 3 people that you actually featured? Did they get with 3 million so many views? Did they get like
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the chap that you just had up on the screen there, Mark Lazen, his was very interesting. He did something different than the other 2. He had these statements. They were one-liners. One line was, "I run towards fires," which was very powerful, right? In other words, he's saying that he's unusual, he's unique, he's courageous, he's brave, whatever you want to read into that. And he was talking about professionally, and if you do a search on "I run towards fires," you will find thousands of copycats, people that have actually taken that line because they read my article featuring him on the web, and he at some stage he got pretty annoyed with this, because he was saying, "Hey, I'm the original and everyone's copying," and he actually put that on his profile. He added to his profile, to his about section. He says, "Yes, Andy Foote featured me in 2012 or 13, whenever it was, and since then there have been X amount of people who are copying me." I'm not sure if that's still on there. So he was, I mean, the plus side, I think, outweighs the negative. He was obviously very, very happy to have all of this attention, because I think at the end of the day, that's what we want. The worst thing on LinkedIn is to be ignored. Right? I mean, we're on there for a reason. We want to be discovered. We're looking for our next gig. We're trying to start a business. We're running a business, and we want to be noticed. And ideally we want to impress.
Totally. I mean, like, I remember when I interviewed Seth Godin, he mentioned something very similar. When you have this, like, a rule book, a playbook, everyone just copies you. I think for people like, you just have to be one step at least ahead of the game, so you can keep innovating, and people can,
absolutely. If you can be original, then you've got something that is valuable, right? If you can create something that is completely original, then that has incredible value, because a lot of people will, they're sitting back. A lot of people are saying, "Okay, what's next? Entertain me. What else have you got?" Because I've already seen this. I've already seen this video with the dancing robot, right? What else? What else have you got? And so I go to the cerebral. I want to not necessarily report the news. Sometimes I do that in terms of, okay, here's what's changed on LinkedIn. I want to, wherever possible, I want to explain what's happening behind the change. And that's why my website is called Linked Insights, because I want to go deeper than the usual reportage.
Yeah, I love it. You are definitely my go-to person. In fact, as I was promoting this, quite a few people told me, "Wow, Andy is my go-to person for sure in terms of LinkedIn." So that's the link to your website. Yeah, we actually.
It's always gratifying. Sorry to interrupt. It's always so very gratifying to hear that, right? To have shout outs. And I really, really appreciate whenever anyone does that. It's really nice. It's basically it's a thumbs up, and it's confirmation that what I'm doing is on the right track and helpful. So I really appreciate whenever that happens.
Yeah, I mean, it is the best marketing. So yeah, I love. Thank you for joining us live. Ashley, telling her mom exactly go for it and follow. Ask your mom to follow Andy. Yeah. So here is actually a question you started from June. Thank you for joining us live. You mentioned earlier, Andy, that your journey actually started with a LinkedIn group.
Yeah.
And I noticed that like the last year or so, LinkedIn group is, I don't know, is it dying or something like that? And so, yeah. So do you have any suggestion? Do you still recommend people to
Yeah.
actually create one?
So I actually do. And unfortunately, the history with LinkedIn groups has not been a pretty one. It's not been a good one at all. I think it's largely because LinkedIn management haven't really known what they want to do. So there doesn't seem to be any sort of strategy behind a lot of the changes. And from the group owner perspective, and I'm obviously still a group owner. I have over 30,000 members in aggregate of various groups that I started and still run. From a group owner perspective, it seems to have been heavy on the meddling and taking away a lot of control away from group owners. So you may find, therefore, that a lot of the groups that you've either joined or you join will may seem like the owner is absent, right, or checked out, and it's potentially because of the meddling that's happened over the last two years or so. So there's a lack of strategy behind whatever it is LinkedIn think they're doing with LinkedIn groups, and that's been frustrating many LinkedIn owners. Now the question is, is it still worth joining them? Is it still worth creating LinkedIn groups? I would say on balance, yes, because for one main reason, we don't know what's next. We don't know what the plan is, if there is a plan. And so in terms of hedging your bets, definitely create one, definitely join. And I'll come back to joining in a second. But be aware that, like most things on LinkedIn, you don't build something important on rented ground. So always have a plan B, right? Always have a way to exit that group quickly if you need to, move your group members over to somewhere else that you already have, ideally, right? So that's the one caveat. And in terms of joining groups, groups, if they're small and they're manageable and they're full of great contributors, right, people who participate in that community, can be tremendous, right? There's a very well run group by a lady called Sufit, TSUFIT. She's out of Toronto, and she runs Step into the Spotlight. And it's a very, very good group, but it's great because of the way she runs it. So you have a very engaged owner who spends a lot of time and effort on running the group in a certain way. So you will find gems in the group landscape, and you just have to find them. But ideally, those are some of the groups that you join, that there is great conversation. There's low spam, and the other big benefit to joining groups is, if you're looking for a good way to connect with someone else, perhaps a decision maker, someone you want to get closer to, an excellent way of doing that is to find out which groups he or she belongs to, join some of those groups. Once you're admitted to any of one of those groups, you then have a very valid reason for sending a great connection request that goes something like this: Dear Dr. I, we are both a member of this group on LinkedIn. And on this basis, I'd love to connect with you. Dear Dr. I saw this comment you made in the group yesterday, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. On this basis, I'd love to connect with you and give you direct access to my network. So groups are great for that, showing commonality, a great way to connect with someone in an intelligent and meaningful way. Because commonality plus specifics maketh the best possible connection request. The more specific you can be, and if you can lay out those commonalities, the more chance your connection request will be accepted.
Yeah, I can see this group is really active. Almost half an hour. Like people post something. Wow, I'm going to check this out. So great, thanks.
It's a great group, and she'll be delighted that I mentioned her. She's terrific, but it does take an awful lot of resources to do what Sufit is doing.
Yeah, totally. Oh, we have one of your super fans here. Brandon's here. Thank you for joining us live, Brandon. And he said you are his go-to person, Andy. So here is actually a question from a student, and I think actually that's one of my question. And Ashley is a high school student, so I'm so excited you're actually here learning more about LinkedIn. And many people ask this question, what should I post? And for you, Andy, you have been on this platform for quite some time. I was looking at your content. Almost every single post, you get like hundreds of comments. Like, I'm not talking about yes or no, I agree, I disagree, but actually very meaningful comments. People are actually having a conversation with you. So can you share your content strategy, right? Like, how much thought you put into this? Like, how do you plan your content? And what are some practices that you have been doing that really contributed to this high level of engagement and and interaction?
Yeah, absolutely. So Ashley makes a great point that she's seen many different types of posts, and I think that's the key to it is variety. So notice that there are many different ways that you can put your brand out there, or you can increase your profile. Number one. Number two, of course. Because it's all out there, because it's all public, not only can you see the types of posts that different authors are putting out there, but you can also see how well they're doing in terms of reactions and comments. So then, Ashley, you should be looking at the posts that are doing really well, the content that's really getting a lot of engagement, and then decide how and why it's getting that a level amount of that level of engagement. And if it's an author who's doing it consistently, then they've kind of cracked the code in terms of getting a consistent amount of engagement. And then you should try and reverse engineer in a way that it makes sense for you. So why is that post by Dr. I, doing so well? What was it? What are the attributes of that post? Break it down, and then how can I use the same kind of techniques to put my message, to put my content out there, whatever you're interested in. I think the other thing is being niche also helps. If you're a specialist in a certain area and you double down on that, then again, that's quite an easy runway for you to start with. If you just hone in on that. Often my clients are all over the place. I say, hey, listen, stay in your wheelhouse. This is your brand. You do this. Don't confuse your audience with stuff that they don't expect to see from you or don't normally see from you, right? So stay in your wheelhouse. So niche, specialism, reverse engineering, try and figure out what's working and why. And I mean, I'm actually very lucky, aren't I? Because my niche is LinkedIn. And I've got the whole platform to play with. That's my sandbox. So I'm very lucky in that respect. But I obviously stay within my wheelhouse, and I do LinkedIn education and training. That's more or less it. In terms of content which I figured out, I think works pretty well for me. I like to do a variety of stuff. Either if it's newsy, right? If it's kind of techie that I can simplify, the algorithm is a good example of that. And also, over the years, right, you get to realize, or you get to understand what people, my tribe, my audience who regularly turf up for me, you get to understand the kind of things they're expecting from me and the kind of things they're interested in. So I try to feed them that, but I also write for me. I try and take myself out of my own body, and I think, well, what do I want to read about today? What do I want to learn more about? So that's my technique. Some of the details I like and have liked for a long while. I like the what I call I like the article wrapped up in a post wrapper. What do I mean by that? I like posts with attached documents. And the reason I like that is it gives me the short post length, right, to be succinct and precise in my communication in that post. But then I can go on at length in the attached document. So in other words, that's the article and it's wrapped up in a post. And what I didn't realize was happening was that I actually was I was doing dwell time before the dwell time tweak to the algorithm actually occurred. So dwell time, we can talk about that, but dwell time is essentially a realization that LinkedIn users were not actually training their home feed. So LinkedIn data scientists decided, well, how can we do that work for them? I know, we'll monitor their scrolling. Let's monitor what they're slowing down on when they're scrolling through the very busy home feed. And that's what they're doing. They're measuring the slowdown on the scroll. Then they measure after the click. So you've clicked on something in the home feed. Then they're going to measure the time that you've actually spent on that post in the home feed. And then they'll also measure, when you bounce. But they'll also look at that historically. So they'll keep assessing that, keep measuring the kinds of content that you typically will slow down on the scroll, click, exit, all of that good stuff. And that should eventually mean, and perhaps some viewers have noticed this, if you keep doing that, it should mean that you will be getting more relevant content in your home feed over time. And of course, it's very important for LinkedIn to fix the home feed in that sense, because the home feed is where they put sponsored content. So that's their money maker. They need to fix it. They need to make sure that it's highly relevant to us. But it's an admission. The dwell time algorithm tweak is an admission that we were not training it, right? That's why they decided to get clever with the measuring of the scrolling.
Yeah, I love, oh my God, so many great points. I also love how you mentioned earlier, Andy, niche. Like for me, I'm kind of a professor dropout, and there are not many educators are like me, quit their job, being so crazy on social media. So that has given me a very nice advantage. I think everyone in the live audience should really think about what is a very unique niche that you can position yourself and rise above your peers, the digital noise.
And I think also, sorry, I was just going to say, also, don't be afraid to be you, right? I mean, Americans will be saying, why is Andy calling it niche? It's niche. I do that on purpose because I'm a European, right? And although I'm a US citizen, I embrace my uniqueness, and everyone here should do the same, right? We're all unique in our own way. We all have our own stories to tell through our about section. We all have our stories to share via posts, and to educate and help and inform. So embrace your uniqueness, and that obviously comes down to language too. So niche, no, it's niche, it's French.
I love it. I love it. Be you. There's only one you, right? Only we can tell. You are, to me, your official title is like a LinkedIn coach. But I think you are an amazing storyteller. You tell amazing stories. I loved reading your own LinkedIn summary. I was like, wow, this is a great story, and I want to learn more about you. So yeah. And so,
the mistake that most people make with the about section is that they copy and paste something from their resume, and it's often 9 times out of 10 it's very boring and dry, and people may list specialities, but they don't really tell the reader what makes them tick, right? And I think that's vital, especially if you consider that everything on LinkedIn, everything is a competition. You're being judged, and people will never tell you if they bounced from your page, right? Or rather, why they bounced. And that's the key. You've got to lay some of it out there. You've got to tell people about you, and tell them what you're passionate about. What your credo is, and how you got to where you are now, as well as what you can do for them.
Yeah, I love it. Actually, this is one of my questions. I got distracted by all the live audience questions, which are great, by the way. I'm slowly catching up on all the questions. So can you share some other, I'm sure, from 2008 to today, 12 years, you probably have reviewed how many thousands of LinkedIn summaries probably. So you kind of shared some mistakes. Are there any additional common mistakes that people are making that we should absolutely pay attention to and stop doing?
Yeah. So I would definitely pay attention to spelling. I still see some spelling errors, and the LinkedIn, and I think I'm right in saying that none of the LinkedIn fields have a spell check. So whenever you put anything in LinkedIn, anything that's certainly in paragraph form, put it into another software, another piece of software first, and have the spell check done for you, just as a safety. Because there's nothing, I think, more off-putting than seeing a spelling mistake. It just seems like the person is not paying attention, and it can be quite embarrassing. So whenever I see a mistake, even if it's a minor typo, I usually reach out to that person. I say, "Hey, listen, I just saw this, and I hope you don't mind pointing it out." And invariably, the response is always positive. So do that. I think the other point I'd make about this, the summary in particular, is that what I was saying earlier is important. Everyone is unique. Everyone has a story to tell, and a way to. Well, the about section is a way to differentiate yourself. It's a way to stand out from the crowd, and that's important. I will say that once people get to your summary, you've kind of, you've won half the battle, because the real battle is actually snagging them, is to hook them right from where they see your name, your headshot, and your headline over to your profile. If they click on those three things, right? Because those are the only three things that you see when people are out in the LinkedIn Commons, as I call it. If they're making comments, if they're in a list in a group, or wherever people see, they only see three things. They see the headshot, your name, and your headline. Now, you can't really do much with your name. I capitalize my name, right? So it's all uppercase with my name. The reason I do that is if you look on TV, next time you're watching TV and there are subtitles, it's always capitalized. All right. And I follow the same convention. It's not shouting online, it's announcing. So I announce myself and I capitalize my name. That's the first thing. The other thing is the headshot. The headshot really has to just be your face, right? Nothing distracting in the background. And my current headshot is a selfie, and it's essentially it's I have an iPhone X, and it has portrait mode, and I kept on taking shots until I found one that I was happy with. And of course, it's got that black portrait background, so it's all about the face. And it has to be I think facially dominant. So of that circle, I think 60 to 70% at least has to be your face, and nothing in the background, or keep it light. And then I'm trying to align the branding with the rest of that footer, the header image. So that's why the black works pretty well with Footnotes, my podcast, and also, to a lesser extent, the black on white that I'm using. And then the other thing, of course, that draws people to your profile is the headline. And the headline you can really get creative with, right? Most people have the default, and the default headline is simply carrying over, moving up, borrowing your function, your current function. That's the template. You can change that to whatever you want, and I encourage all of my clients, and I write it for them. I give them suggested headlines where they sell themselves, and I call them slogan type headlines. So I do that for my clients, and that really has one job, and that is to pull people over to the profile where people then can take the next step, whether it's due diligence, whether it's researching, or even perhaps reaching out for a new thing, doors opening. So that's I've moved from the about section to the headline, but the headline is vital. On the summary, like I said, don't be boring, tell your story. If you're ever going to put some bullets in the about section, then make those bullets achievements, what you've achieved in your career so far, and always back up those achievements with facts and figures. That's the standard if you're, I think, using bullets.
I think everyone should just be a professional stalker of you, Andy, and look at how you are drafting your summary. And I want to go back to the headline a little bit. You mentioned slogan type of headline. That is so interesting. So can you just briefly elaborate on this a little bit more? So what do you mean? Give us an example.
Yes. So, I mean, they can be short as you want. I'm looking at a headline from a lady lawyer in New Zealand who I featured in. I updated my 3 stunningly good summaries, and I updated it to 4 stunningly good summaries. So if you do a search on LinkedIn summaries, you should be able to find this article on the first page for that search. And the one of them that I featured is from Eleni Saltis, Psaltis, and hers is simply lawyer dash digging for treasure.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the article. Yeah, but anyway, keep talking. Give me a second. I'm going to find it. Actually, I saw the article earlier. I'm going to share it in a second. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm struggling to think of other headlines that because the way that I work is I look at the I look at my client first, and then I decide, okay, it's a creative process that takes time, so I can't really come up with them on the spot.
I so agree with you. You have no idea how many times I actually changed my headline. I don't even remember, at least like 3 digits, like maybe 100 times. It definitely, it is hard work, even though only like 3 words or 1 sentence takes lots of energy.
Well, and that's a good point. That everything on your LinkedIn profile should change with you, and not just in terms of how your career has developed, and you need to update accordingly, but in terms of outside external influences, something that you see or you hear. May well spark a thought. Oh, yeah, that's actually something I could use or incorporate in the way that I brand myself. So, the entire LinkedIn profile page is what I call a living, breathing document. It changes all the time. And to your point, I think I've changed my my headline some 30 times over the last 12 years, and I actually wrote a post about that, and I listed all of them. At one point, I had a pretty miserable headshot of me, and I was looking quite disapproving. And the headshot came first, and then the headline came next, and it was, "The reason I'm not smiling?" Question mark. I've seen so many awful LinkedIn profiles today.
I
So
love that.
that was an example of a headline. But you can get so creative, and you can nab your reader straight away. Eleni's Saltis's summary, one of the 4 that I featured, starts off like this. Ever the unpopular child, I decided to continue the theme well into adulthood by becoming a lawyer. It's just it's just very, very very welcoming, very warm, and obviously self-deprecating, and it nails it. And then she
communicates.
and she also says, "I may have been known to expedite legal matters in exchange for chocolate and mint condition stationery." Right, so she's got this very light and natural touch in the way that she writes, and you feel that you already know her, or you certainly know her personality, and that's the key to the about section, is to be you, and just obviously write a great prospectus of you and why people want to work with you.
Yeah, I love that. And also earlier, as I was sharing your LinkedIn profile, I don't know if everyone caught this, like next to our name, there's that microphone icon, so we can actually pronounce our name. And I noticed that some people actually added a 1 sentence kind of description of what they do. I was like, wow, that is so clever. I actually copied that. So what do you think about this feature? How are you using? I noticed that you actually have music there.
I do.
Yeah, is that intentional, or how are you using or recommending people use this feature?
Yeah, so I wrote about pronunciation feature when it first arrived, and I guessed that people would be using that in creative ways, in more ways than it was intended. And as far as its intended use, I think it's long overdue. I think people who have difficult to pronounce names, or perhaps people who are from different countries, who are continually having to explain to people how to pronounce their name. I think that's an absolute huge move, and it helps just it removes the friction, doesn't it, if you
100%.
understand exactly how to pronounce someone's name. So
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful, and I think it's also wonderful that people are using the pronunciation feature, the 10 seconds. They realize that, oh, I can put something else in here. And what I've done for mine is that my name is pretty standard. I don't think people, mess it up too many times. I can live with it. Usually if it is messed up, people say Andy Footy or Andy Footer, right? And it's not, the E is silent. So most people get it, and it doesn't bother me anyway if they don't get it. So because of that, I decided to just put a snippet of a song in there, and hopefully, that amuses people and they like the song. I think that's just another way, I think, of being me and being creative.
I love it. I love it. Actually, I listen to the song quite a few times. Sometimes when I take a break, I'll listen to the song.
It's a very it's an uplifting sort of Detroit 60s, and the story is that this was a song that was only recently discovered, I think 2 years ago, and the group never made it. So it was a demo, and it was found in by someone, I don't know, an old record, and someone who listened to it, like, recently said, "Wow, this is amazing. Who is this group? I've never heard of them." And the quality, the sound was the standard of the song was so high, and they just never made it because the competition back then was so intense that they got eclipsed by other Motown groups. And they kind of vanished, and then they had this resurgence because someone found them and said, "Who are these people?" So it's Penny and the Quarters
Yeah.
is the group.
That's interesting to know the background. So here's a question from Mary. We didn't have a chance to ask earlier. So actually, I have a similar question. It looks like a LinkedIn article, the traditional feature that I actually started using LinkedIn by doing LinkedIn article. Like, do you feel like LinkedIn articles are still generating traction, and do we still need to pay attention to this? And yeah, should she do use this to announce her new thing?
Yeah. So articles a strange thing on LinkedIn. It used to be that articles were the vehicle of content delivery. And the reason was that, well, LinkedIn would send notifications whenever an author published an article on the platform. And then LinkedIn decided, for whatever reason, to not send notifications whenever new articles were published. And that kind of killed the article, reduced them a lot. And when authors realized that was happening, a lot of them switched from articles or long form content to posts, to short form content. And I don't know if that was strategic, if this was something that LinkedIn decided, okay, maybe, this is just my guess, but maybe not enough people were writing articles. And we wanted to essentially have lots of people producing content for LinkedIn for free. And the best way they decided to do that was to actually have them do posts instead of articles. And posts are a lot easier to write because obviously it's 1,300 characters, so it's not much of a time investment, and people can do them fairly quickly without much thought often, right? Or they can share videos or whatever they choose. So LinkedIn posts are kind of like the newspaper of today. They are consumed usually in a short period of time, and then they're kind of forgotten. They're hidden by other content, and their statistics, the stats attached to them, also vanish after a couple of years. They kind of drop off, which is weird. But to your question, are articles still worth writing? I would say yes, for two main reasons. Number one, for stretching or flexing your intellectual muscles. You can only really show off your knowledge by writing thousands of words rather than 1,300 characters. So you've got that opportunity to share that way via articles. And the second reason articles are still important and still still useful to do is that they are indexed by Google. So LinkedIn articles are indexed, LinkedIn posts are not. So that's a very important difference, and it's important because a good friend of mine, Bruce Johnston, swears by articles. He says, Andy, articles I wrote years ago are still getting me business inquiries, and that's because of the Googleplex, right? That's because of the search engine love. In answer to the specific question, I forget the lady's name.
Mary.
Yeah, should she announce her new business, announcing an article? Yeah, you could also do it in a post. A post with attachments. For example, the article in a post wrapper that I referred to. So just add documents. But I would say make it more of an announcement. Make it why should people be interested in the new business? She's probably going to do that anyway. But a lot of the time, the LinkedIn content that dies on the vine is stuff that just is like, it's informational, right? It doesn't get engagement. It doesn't ask questions, and it doesn't expect responses. It doesn't kind of generate engagement by the way it's been written. So informational stuff will it won't do much, right? It might be better to message, right, all of the folks that you think might be interested. Might be better to just juice that announcement before it happens and tell them, hey, this is going to happen. I'd like you to add a comment if you think is relevant. Perhaps even start a LinkedIn group.
Yeah,
for your
I was
business.
actually thinking about that. Yeah, and also, as I was doing research, getting prepared for our interview, I discovered from an interview that you did with Richard. I
Yes,
forgot.
Richard Vanderboom.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he posted something like, when you are having like a steady stream of LinkedIn articles, and doing that will actually enhance your social selling index. Is that true, or do you know? Or
Yeah, so I actually don't pay much attention to the social selling index. To me it's not a great measure of what I do. I can see how people who are in the sales arena certainly they think it's helpful because it's a benchmark and it shows them their performance over a period of time, and they can comparatively speaking they can look at others. But to me the social selling index is not terribly relevant to what I do in terms of the way that I run my LinkedIn
Interesting. That's
account.
good to know. Yeah. Frankly speaking, I rarely check this myself. And as I was preparing for this interview, I was like, what is my score? So this is, you do not have to have a sales navigator to use
Right.
this feature, right? It is free. Everyone can check this out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just check it out to see
Yeah.
what you have.
Yeah. One of the criticisms when I spoke to sales folks about the social selling index when I looked into it, when I researched it years ago, was that one big weakness is that it doesn't integrate with other indicators or other systems, and it's a standalone. So that was a weakness. And I've also heard rumors that the social selling index is going to disappear for most users, and it's going to be incorporated into Sales Navigator, the Sales Navigator package. So it may go away, but as I say, not terribly relevant to what I do. I don't focus on that. I focus primarily on engagement on my posts. Comments in particular, being responsive to those comments, right? So always having dialogue. I call the dialogue around my posts, and any posts, right? I call them the new groups, because that's where people are coalescing and actually getting to know each other around comments. That's where the conversations are. So comments around content are the new LinkedIn groups is what I say.
I love that. I love that. So like when someone is like commenting on your post, you engage and maybe ask some additional questions to kind of start a conversation. Wow,
Yeah.
that is powerful.
Yeah, there's a lot of good cumulative stuff that comes from writing great content, right? It attracts people, new people to you, the author, but also new people to anyone who's commenting and sticking their head above the parapet.
Yeah.
Polls are also a very interesting tool. I've written polls where, it's not just an A or B vote. There's an A, B, or C, and the C is other, which then gives a great door opener to anyone else who wants to say, I disagree with A or B. Why have you only given A or B? Here's my C. And that gets a lot of discussion, a lot of commentary, because everyone has an opinion.
Totally. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. And here's a question from Brandon that I missed earlier. He asked, like, when you upload the photo, and you know how sometimes you can add a text, especially I think only on your phone. I don't think you can do this on your desktop. And does this hold any weight in terms of, increase the search on LinkedIn?
Yeah, it's a great question. Hello, Brandon, and hello, Lawrence as well. I think I saw Lawrence Schooler, and hello, Ella. Lots of people I recognize. Yeah, so I'm not sure is the short answer. I'm not sure if adding text to photos actually does anything for you in terms of search results. That's not something I've looked at, not something I spent too much of my time thinking about. I'm more interested in A, writing great content consistently, B, making sure that, whenever my fans coalesce, that I engage with them. And also the other thing I'm trying to do, and Brandon, is that I'm trying to win the comments game. What I mean by that is, if I am tagged or if I happen to see other posts, other content that I'm interested in, and I add a comment, I want to win the comment stakes. I want to have the most amount of likes on my comment. And it's just for me, it's me being competitive. It's like if I can inject maximum value in this comment, right? And if I can get 20, 40, 50 likes and I'm at the top of the feed, right, the comment feed, then it's like, yes, I won the comments game. I mean, it's just one way that I keep myself engaged. And
I love it. I love it. You are really challenging me to look at commenting
yeah,
very differently. Actually, my research has shown, like, among commenting, sharing, and reacting, and commenting sends the strongest signal to the algorithm in terms of boosting the overall performance, especially meaningful comments, the way you are doing comments. So I love it.
absolutely,
I love,
absolutely.
I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And you do have quite a lot of space to express your opinion and to share information via comments. It's not like you don't have enough space to do that. Sometimes I run out. I think it's 1,250 characters for the comment. Incidentally, the summary section, the about section, has increased from 2,000 to 2,600 characters relatively recently. That's been a change that's happened over the last 2 months. So, think about that. LinkedIn is essentially saying, "Hey, this is an opportunity for you to tell your story." And they're giving you several sheets of paper to do that.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, great. Yeah. So here's a question from Ella. Thank you for staying up late. I think it's 10 p.m. for you. Thank you. So in terms of personal branding, what would you say is the top tip for building a brand on LinkedIn apart from a tip-top profile?
Apart from the profile. Hello, Ella. Great question. Okay, so I think the top tip is to make sure that whatever you're doing in the LinkedIn comments reflects very well on you. So think about every word that you use, and think about the way that you build relationships, right? How strategic are you in terms of people that you're reaching out to and people who are reaching out to you? Are you accepting everyone and not worried about that, or you're accepting people that, wow, I think I could learn from I think I could learn from Lance or Brandon. So think about that. Be very strategic and have some kind of plan in place in the way that you build your relationships. And also, like I said, everything that you put out there is judged. Every word that you write is judged, and people, ideally, people will be looking at you. They'll make snap decisions. Not ideally, they'll make snap decisions, but ideally, you want to haul them over. You want to snag them, hook them over to your profile page where they can take the next step. Eventually, it's a long-term game as well. Things don't happen overnight, right?
Totally.
So the expression "I'm an overnight success" that took 10 years took 12 years. I'm sure a lot of people can relate. And then I just forgot. I was going to say one other thing. It might come back to me. Yeah, it might come. I was going to add one more thing. Okay, I might come back to it.
No worries. Yeah, we'll definitely come back to you. Yeah. So yeah, definitely I'll share the link in the comment section. We're going to give it a vote. Yeah. And so there is actually a question earlier that I'm also trying to get the question earlier, but like we have so many questions. And here.
I remembered what I was going to say to Ella. The other thing that you can do to enhance your brand, your brand profile, is if you have someone that you would really like to appear on their radar, right? If there's someone that you're really, really interested in them knowing about you, being aware of you, then you should definitely browse their profile and wait for them to browse you back. The browse back is a very strong indicator of interest. They cannot say that they don't know about you once they browse you back, right? It's a very firm signal that they are now aware of you. Then the next thing you have to decide is, what's the next step, right? What am I going to do with that information? Am I going to send them an invitation request? Etc. So yeah, the browse back is a very, very, very powerful tool if you're trying to get things done via people on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I love how intentional you are. And you were talking about, like commenting. I think it's really such a great comment. And but like sometimes, I don't know, you probably notice this as well. And there's this like mass tagging, right? Sometimes I will go to a person's LinkedIn post, you will see like, for example, like 10 comments, and then when you look at the comments, 9 comments out of 10 is actually the author tagging I, blah, Andy, like Mary, Brandon, what do you think about this? And it can be annoying. What do you think about that practice?
Yeah, so I'm not a fan of mass tagging. I have to say it's something that seems quite. Sometimes it seems indiscriminate. It seems like, oh, I'm being tagged with these other folks, and it seems like the author is doing that because they want to get the engagement ball rolling. I understand why they do it, but I think it could be counterproductive. I think in particular, if let's say, for example, the algorithm looks for positive and negative signals. I think if one of the negative signals is that a bunch of people that have been tagged either untag themselves or perhaps delete and mute the post, I think that could actually harm that author, not just with that post in particular, but perhaps successive posts if they're doing that all the time. So I think that's another reason for not doing the mass tagging. I think there's a high yuck factor to it. I don't like it. I don't do it. I did it once. And I did it once because I put out my hashtag list, my hot 100 hashtag lists. I think it was last year, and I got a ton of people interested in that. Got lots and lots of engagement, and then I updated it and I put another list out. And this time I decided to do something different. A lot of what I do is experimentation, right? And so I tagged a lot of people who had responded positively to the first one and said, "Oh, this is great. Let me know about the next one or whatever." And so I tagged, and when I tagged, the post didn't do nearly as well as I thought it would, and I felt yucky, I felt icky when I did that. So I decided then and there I'm not going to do the mass tagging. That's not for me. I'll only ever tag a few people if I'm writing something that specifically is relevant to them, where they're perhaps mentioned in an article that I'm writing or a post. Then I'll mention them. If they're being interviewed on my podcast, then I'll certainly tag them. But the mass tagging, I say, don't do it, folks. Just don't do it.
I love that. I think that needs to be on a t-shirt. I love it. Yeah. So we only have 1 minute left. This is probably not a 1 minute question, but I want to make sure to it's probably like a complex question and needs a bit longer. But if you can kind of briefly answer this question, because I see that a few people kind of have a similar question, any tips in terms of, just like how they can, I imagine you are mainly using organic content marketing to grow your business. And if you can give some fellow marketers some tips.
Yeah, that's and that's got to be frustrating, Tim. Like, if you've been doing that, and it seems like you're spinning your wheels and you're not getting people knocking on your door. This isn't going to be a great answer, but it's certainly been true for me. I've been doing this for 12 years, and it's really a long-term game. You have to keep doing it as long as you're interested in what you're doing, the area that you're doing, as long as you're passionate about it and you're enthusiastic, you like doing it. I haven't worked a day in my life for the last 12 years because I've been doing something that I absolutely love. And the lead, the business has come. It takes time, and if it's really not happening for you, Tim, then you need to look at the content that you're putting out there and the way that you're doing it, and you need to switch it up. You need to try new things until something something does work. So I put an infographic out there basically that had 2 lines, and one started at the top with great content, the other one started with crap content. And that's a thing. There's so much competition out there for eyeballs. You have to have high quality, high value stuff that you're sharing that impresses the heck out of people. Exactly. Then the business will come.
Exactly. I agree. Oh my God, what a great conversation. I know we can just keep talking about this forever, but share with us, Andy, where can people learn more about you? I have your LinkedIn handle here, and I know you also have a podcast, so share with us.
Yeah, essentially there are 2 ways that people can see me. The first is the website that's up on the screen, linkedinsites.com. The second is my relatively new podcast, which is Foot-Notes, so FOOTE-notes.com. And the third is, of course, LinkedIn, and you can find me there. And reach out to me, say hi, send me a connection request, or follow me, and maybe I'll connect with you.
Oh, thank you so much, Andy. I thoroughly enjoyed today's conversation. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live from all over the globe. And next Wednesday, we're going to discuss how to be featured in the media with the PR Pro. So definitely come back next Wednesday, same time, same location. Make sure you guys are following Andy. And thank you so much again, Andy, for a great conversation and learn a lot.
Thank you, Anne. Bye-bye. Thank you.